Cheese, episode 435. I'm your Joe Dix, joined by Mark Augustiniak.
What's up?
Matt Zellner.
Hello.
The Free Cheese is a weekly video game podcast about video games brought to you once a week by thefreecheese.com. This week, we are doing our 2021 year in review. I'll tell you more about that in a minute, but first I have excellent news to report to the both of you and all of the listeners out there. It turns out that the Skittles company, or whatever parent owns them now, who owns them now? Is it Tencent? Is it Embracer Group? Whoever owns Skittles got the memo. Lime's back, baby. They put lime back in the bag. No more of that green apple nonsense. It can be gone forever. I ask you, Mark, what is your favorite Skittle flavor and why is it lime?
Okay, so I didn't know that the flavors were distinctive enough to tell what was what, because I just ate them all at once. Would you just only pick out a singular Skittle and eat it?
No. I shovel them all in until the bag's gone, and I wonder what happened. But I know that occasionally, in the last 8 years, you would do just that, and then occasionally you'd be like, oh, why does this suck? And it's because green apple was in the mix.
Well, here's what you do, right? Regardless of flavor, you do what I did in high school. This is how you make all the friends, become Mr. Popular. And so you grab a bag of Skittles, you grab yourself a bottle of Mountain Dew, you pour all the Skittles into the bottle of Mountain Dew, watch the colors disappear till all the Skittles are now white and your Mountain Dew is brown. And then you drink it and / eat it. And, yep, nobody will question you. I guarantee it.
I have long understood that and by long I mean like the last time we talked about Skittles on the podcast, that it's not about the taste, it's more about the smell. That each Skittle...
Okay, that's what I was looking up as you all were speaking. Yeah, these are
I believe that is the case.
Who smells Skittles?
Correct. I think they're not real flavors, they're just scents. And then the way that you smell it interprets whatever, that
the
dictates
taste,
what
the tongue,
taste
the brain, the eyes, the color,
but
lime.
Are you saying, like, as you're chewing it, the scent will come through, like, the back of your head and, like, you smell it that way?
It's body magic, dude.
Because, like,
I don't know.
I'm not grabbing a handful and then digesting. No one sniffs Skittles.
I wouldn't say that no one sniffs Skittles. I mean, you
I
haven't asked Matt about his...
I will say that right now. I'll deny everyone.
But it's something about that. There's a synesthesia or something that happens. I don't know.
Well,
Matt, what's your go-to Skittle? If you were going to smell a Skittle, which one would it be?
I never had a particular fun flavor, so I'll just agree with you, Lime, to not start another war.
Look, man, a new era for us. No more wars. We know the truth. Green apple sucks. Lime is much better.
I do agree. I'd rather have lime than green apple. I will definitely.
Yeah.
No hesitation there.
Can we bring back lemon Jolly Rancher?
Did they remove that?
Tart.
For years. I know, but I loved it. And it's just, they're like, oh, no, whatever. We got rid of it just for good. I'm like, all right, well, that's an unsolved mystery, but...
Always a watermelon.
I didn't mind watermelon, but I wouldn't go out of my way for it. The one that I loved, Jolly Rancher. Yes, cherry Jolly Rancher, thumbs up, but cherry Jolly Rancher lollipop. Remember the lollipops? The big squares they used to make? Jolly Rancher lollipops?
Never had those.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
I didn't have a lot of them.
You can hunt them down.
Yeah, I remember them.
They were very good. The cherry was very good.
More of a Tootsie Pop guy. 3 licks
are good too.
To get to the center.
That was definitely not true.
If it's 3 licks, you need to go to a doctor.
I mean, my teeth are all jacked up, but yeah, speak for yourself.
3 licks, your name might be Eddie Brock. We might talk a little bit more about Eddie Brock later on this episode, but before we get to any Spider-Man characters or any video games at all, we should tell you what's different this time around, because we're different this time around. You may have noticed that over the last 6 months, a little bit longer than that, we ran through our Game of the Year, where we took our top 5 from the last 5 years. We ranked them in some order that we decided. And we were sitting down to plan this episode and being kind of transparent here with you, dear listener. And during the planning phase of this episode, where we started to talk about, okay, what are we doing for Game of the Year? What are we going to talk about? Our planning document still says Game of the Year 2021. So we had every intention of moving into this as traditional as possible. And then we started talking about it, and Mark pointed out that Game of the Year felt naturally kind of like a send-off to the way we used to do Game of the Year. And with the changes we're making with Season 10, it might be time to make a change to how we approach the end of the year. We long have not played the same things together, and we've definitely not played all of the games that would end up on a traditional Game of the Year, hashtag Game of the Year 2021 list. So it's always felt a little weird for us to sit down and give awards out. I mean, it's been fun. I'm not trying to discount anything we've ever done in the past, but I think this year especially, maybe the fact that there was no strong frontrunner for something that was like, games were weird this year. It was a weird release year, and I think that for better or worse, for better, we all kind of found ourselves playing different things that were not always released this year. I think also games are just weird now. You have games that come out one year, and they don't really get good for a couple of years, or they continue to stay good for a couple of years. There's so much, and I think there's so much that we have access to now across so many different platforms. The options made available that playing releases in a calendar year, it's cool for a video game magazine or, a big video game outlet or something, but it doesn't make sense for us. So what we're doing differently this year is we've made a big list of games that we played and felt were important to us in 2021. So it's all stuff that we played last year. And we've got them sorted first by month of release, second by day of release. We did not factor year into the sorting. So we're going to talk about games based on when they were released, day and date, in reverse chronological order. Some of these we've all played together. Some of these only one of us or two of us have played, and a good chunk of these did come out in 2021. It's not to say that we're just talking about old games here, but there were games that came out not in 2021 that we want to talk about. So we're going to run through, we'll read the title of the game, we might mention something we liked about it, didn't like about it, why it was important to us, and we'll move on to the next one. Along the way, we will mark each of us kind of have an individual staff pick, if you will. As Matt called it, the blockbuster staff pick of the month. This is kind of like the game from us individually that meant the most to us, that was a new release in 2021 that we would recommend above all else on the list. And at the end, we're going to talk a little bit about our most anticipated game of 2022. With that, we'll bring Season 9 of the Free Cheese Podcast to a close just ahead of our new season next week. Matt or Mark, do you want to add anything? Did I miss anything in our introduction here?
I think you hit the nail on the head.
I concur.
Hammer away, Captain. Well, then we're going to start with our first game, the Aleste Collection. This was released December, so some of these dates also, listener, they're rough estimate. Some of these may have been the original Japanese release. Some of these may have been, I don't know, but we got a big old list of games that we like that we're going to talk about. That's all this comes down to. First one on the list, the Aleste Collection, brought to you by the fine folks at M2. This is sadly still limited to Japanese release. You can only get it on eShop or PlayStation Network if you have a Japanese account in either of those platforms. But I highly recommend you do that. You can also import the physical version. There was a physical version. Or if you're really cool, you could import the Game Gear Micro that has GG Aleste 3 on it. And the other Game Gear games. You could do that too if you want to be really cool. But I picked this up. I don't remember. 2020, we kind of all explored tons of stuff, right? And I got way into the idea of the Game Gear. I just loved it. I loved that there was this whole library of Sega trying to grab a market that Nintendo so dominantly held. Their wait over. And the games that came out on that platform really attracted me. And one of the ones I kept seeing recommended was GG Aleste 2, or Game Gear Aleste. Top-down shooter. And I tried it. I liked it. I thought it was really neat. And then it kind of coincided with the fact that M2 announced this Aleste collection, because M2 has acquired both talent that used to work and create these games, as well as the licensing rights to these games. So they came together to put out a big collection to make a brand new Game Gear game, GG Aleste 3, as part of this collection. And they're since making an arcade and a home Aleste game right now. They're actually close to release in the next couple months. The arcade game, I think, actually just came out in Japan. The home release will be out soonish in the next few months. But it's cool because everybody loves M2, right? At this point, M2 has become a household name for emulation standards and creating these masterful collections. So for them to put this out, I was super excited. Grabbed it, and I loved GG Aleste 3. I loved everything they did with this package. I loved the fact that they could make a brand new Game Gear game in 2020 just was really cool. And I spent most of 2021 just kind of gradually coming back to it. One, just to beat it, period, because it took me a while to get through the game naturally. I was trying not to like save scum or anything like that throughout my playtime with it. But it also taught me a lot about shooting games, and what a genre that has been around forever, but I never really quite explored in depth as I did with this collection. And in doing so, it opened me up to so many more games that I ended up playing throughout the year. When all of those Genesis games got added to the Switch earlier or late last year, Musha was one added to it, which Musha, you wouldn't know it by the name, is also part of the Aleste series, but it was a Genesis game. It's not part of the Aleste collection, but I ended up playing that separately, and I beat it in a single sitting, just running through, because I now like kind of understand how to speak that language, so to speak. And I don't know, I'm like finding myself excited about new shooters that are coming out. I haven't bought it yet, but I'm really excited about R-Type Final 2. And yeah, I don't know. Shooting games. Who would have thought that would be a thing that I fell in love with over the last year? But I really, really, really did. And I can't recommend that one enough. Our next game on the list is Batman, specifically for the Nintendo Entertainment System. I don't want to say too much because I don't want to ramble forever without you guys getting a chance to speak, but this one just so happened to be the next on the list. I missed Batman on the NES as a kid. I don't know how or why it came out around the same time I came out, but I was so entwined with Batman, that 89 movie, and then the Batman Returns in 92. Like everything about that whole era of Batman, I loved as a kid. So this one, I don't know how it missed me. But revisiting it now, there's something really fun about this Batman game. And I specifically played it because I was more excited. I wanted to see this one all the way through. Batman is purple in this game, which is an interesting look for Batman. I think the character design looks really neat. But also, this is one of the rare examples of a different media having a direct sequel to something in a different. So they made Batman, Return of the Joker, as a sequel to this video game, but also as a sequel to the 89 movie that never happened. And I thought that was really neat. And this Batman game in particular was just a fun example of Sunsoft at its best back in those days. It's a little weird when you start going around this is just a straightforward action platformer with some combat and some shooting and stuff. They did a TurboGrafx 16 version and a Game Boy version, and they're all wildly different. TurboGrafx 16 is a top-down iteration where you just disarm bombs, and the Game Boy version is just Batman with a gun, and it's really weird. But yeah, the NES version I really had a lot of fun with. The platforming in the game specifically stood out to me, and again, like this made me seek out other things on the list. Halo Infinite is the next game on our list, which I'll let one of you guys talk about Halo Infinite. But that was out December 8th, 2021. Of course, the multiplayer out on November 15th.
Yeah, so with I guess we should start with the multiplayer, right? Because that came first, which
yeah.
really good. You know, I mean, like it came out the gate a little iffy in terms of like progression and stuff, but I think just as far as core gameplay goes, I think they did nail that part down. Yeah, like I really don't know where to begin with all of it, because like I have, like, in my mind it's all like separated between multiplayer and like campaign, and I don't know if we just want to focus on one and jump into the other or what.
I mean, I think you said it best. Like the multiplayer, while now it has kind of started to figure itself out in terms of progression, and be a little bit more forgiving with that stuff. I think you nailed it. Where like the gameplay is there. It's the perfect combination of modern mechanics, but being in that Halo sandbox that makes Halo unique compared to other first-person shooters. And yeah, I think all the power-ups are cool. There's not one that I really don't think. Like the drop shield's not cool compared to the grappling hook, but it definitely serves a purpose in multiplayer just as much as all the other stuff does. I think it's a really good package. I think at launch they, bare bones game modes, but ones that made sense and worked. They've since added to it. I am a big fan of SWAT. I'm glad to see that's back. But yeah, I think the Halo multiplayer is absolutely amazing. It's probably the highlight of this package, despite some weird progression things. But now, like I said, if you have a problem with the progression now, it's just because the whole system's flawed. It's not because you get plus 50 every match now.
Yeah, like I'm real curious to see how this evolves, like a year from now or something. Like
yeah, I think May is going to be the magic answer to that once we switch from season 1. I think it's May. Is it May or June? I can't remember.
It's around there.
When we switch from season 1 to season 2, I think that's when we're gonna see some pivots, and I'm interested. Yeah, like you said, I'm interested to see what happens at that point.
And like for someone who isn't like that competitive, or at least I like to claim that I'm not that competitive, this game brings it out of me for sure. Like I'll just times by myself where I'm just yelling up a storm or whatever, and no one can hear me. Like I'm not gonna, actually troll other people or whatever. But I mean, I guess that says something, right? Like that brings out that sparks a little fire in me during that, and
yeah,
I appreciate that this series could still bring some emotion out of me, one way or another. But yeah, the multiplayer is I really enjoy it, and I love the approach to it. Like you don't need Game Pass to jump into it. I think that's a really cool thing.
Yeah, I'm grateful for the progression being so bad, because it let me finally let go of chasing that. I felt like I've always had this kind of distaste for it, for those progression systems, but I still was always, I reluctantly would always give in to them. This was the first time where I'm like, I'm cool. I'm out. And it feels good to be out. Like I don't need to care. And I can just play the game for the game. And that felt like playing old Halo to me, which granted, playing old Halo is still new to me in the last 5 years, but getting really into the Master Chief Collection and those multiplayer sessions and like really making it click, Halo Infinite does that super well and recaptures that same fervor, I think. And then, yeah, let's talk about the campaign. The campaign was kind of long awaited after 5 left on another cliffhanger, predominantly swapped between playable Master Chief and Spartan Locke, and it was a different feel for Halo. I still, I think we all kind of agree that we liked 5. We had a fun time with 5, I think, together, playing it co-op. We beat that on Legendary, the night before Halo Infinite released.
Yeah. And
I think we had a lot of fun with it. Some of the stuff was a little bit lost to me story-wise and lore-wise, but I think where Infinite opens up connects those dots a bit, and then the rest of this campaign, I guess I haven't thought about what I really think about Halo Infinite's campaign since beating it, but
I mean, the story, without getting the spoilers, I mean, I think the story is what it is, but this is where I'm hoping that the Infinite name lives up to its name, and we get a few more stories in this world, because there's definitely questions left unanswered. But like, I think the ride through, I think the main baddie was all right for compared to other Halo main baddies. And once again, I can't, in terms of like just the actual structure of the campaign, I can't say this enough. Like, this is exactly what I thought this campaign was. Like, it didn't exceed expectations. It didn't, it didn't miss the mark on my expectations. From the time I saw that open world nav map at the E3 reveal to now, like this is exactly what I thought this game was going to be. Clearing bases, going to the objective, having dumb things in between, collectibles, all that stuff. I don't think it's not a bad thing that this didn't, exceed my expectations, but like, I like where they kind of set this up to go. I just hope they kind of continue to put stories out in this world, and this isn't it.
Yeah, I love how the game starts you off. I think it's a good introduction to easing you into like kind of like what to expect from it, and the way that it just introduces the new mechanics and whatnot. I really appreciated like having that incentive to go explore and kind of approach things how I would want to approach them, which Halo kind of always had. So I like that it was brought on, like, I guess, kind of more of a grander scale, I guess, more or less. It's not just a narrow pathway, A to B. It's kind of take this however you want, with whatever options you have. But over time, I started to notice a lot of the blemishes, and they were kind of hard to ignore. So that was starting to impact my like overall like feel of it. Like, it never like turned me away from quitting it or anything. Like, we all finished it. But over time, man, it was just like a lot of tropes I was hoping weren't going to be in this game, like the constant audio logs. I just didn't care to get. I don't like that form of exposition to like figure out everything. Which is like, I'm fine with it here and there, but it was like so many. It was like it was like the I forgot what they're called already. What's the Banished.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Banished.
There were the Spartan ones.
There's like two sections of Spartan ones, and then you have like the Forerunner stuff or whatever.
Yeah, and some of them were like, I don't know, historical battles that we didn't actually get to play through as Chief. Like, it was like recapping them in a weird way or something. I don't know, that was strange to me.
Yeah, so I was a little whatever, but and then like because of hearing the main guy so much, like the main villain that's not Atriox, right? That's I forget his name.
Yeah, I think Atriox. Yeah, I forget the guy's name now too.
But like I guess it's just because the way his voice is for this. It's not a voice I want to hear a lot and often. Because the way he talks, it just drowns you out. And he's so like, he feels Shakespearean almost with the way he talks. And I'm just like, dude, I don't care. I am not invested in you as a villain whatsoever. Why do you have like 5 hours of dialogue? Like, so like that was like wearing on me overall, like the entire time that I'm playing it. But I'm still having fun with the gameplay. But story wise, I'm just not invested. So like by the end of it, I was just, I don't know, like I don't have like, unless like we decide to do co-op with it, I don't think I'm gonna go back and play this on my own. But
no, and if your prediction's anything close to reality, I don't want to touch co-op at all. But it's a different story.
But I did, for the first in this series to do what it's doing, I don't think it's a bad start. I do appreciate what it has. I just kind of wish there was more to find when you're exploring, because a lot of it just kind of felt barren. Like, I would hookshot to so many places, and I would go over these obstacles and these challenges just to be nothing. Just like, oh.
Yeah.
So maybe that's on me, but I don't...
No, I felt that too. Like, I did not love that it was open world initially. I got into it. I did end up liking that it was open world, but I just kind of... I missed that more straightforward approach to just level by level progression.
Yeah.
But I'll agree with Matt. Like, I think this is, I want to see more story. I want to see where they go next. I do think that this was 343 kind of flattening the stage again, right? Like, they very much were coming into this. They're making a new mark while keeping it like historic to Halo. I think it works as, like, by the end of this, we're kind of set back at the beginning of Halo, and I don't mean that in like some ominous way. I just mean like the core elements that were already kind of up in the air going into this game of like what you think of when you think of Halo. Everything's kind of they like played with the toys and they put them all back in the place, put them back in their resting positions by the end of this game so that they can go into the next section, starting with the core of what makes a Halo. But I really liked my time with the game, and I want to play more multiplayer. I just have gotten into other things in the last couple weeks, but
yeah, yes, I think 343 did a good job overall, though.
Yeah, agreed. Super Smash Bros. Ultimate next on our list, which came out in 2018, but for 3 years following received couple updates a year, more than a couple actually. We had regular kind of content and patch updates, but there were new fighters added, a couple each year since its release. I forget, what was the total count on new fighters added with both fighter packs? 12 in total, or 13 maybe. And yeah, that all came to an end just a few weeks ago, but it was something, I know that we talked about Smash a long time ago, and I talked about it being kind of a palate cleanser, where whenever I didn't know which direction to go next, when I was like wrapping up one game or not feeling a different one, Smash became a really nice springboard to like reinvigorate my interest or allure in something else. I kind of would play Smash for a bit, get into a character, and then end up, playing something else because of it. And I felt like every new addition we got, new character, I was always jumping in and at least running through the classic story mode or whatever with each character just to get a feel for how they were. And some of them I was like surprised to like as much as I did. Like Sora's really fun, even though Kingdom Hearts is the least interesting video game to me. But Sora was a lot of fun to play. And same thing with Steve from Minecraft. And like we've played Minecraft before, and I get it, and I had some fun with you guys playing it, but that was kind of I don't think I'd go out on that one on my own, or I haven't gone out on that one on my own. I don't know that I would never, but playing that character in Smash, I don't know, it was fun and interesting and a different approach for a fighting game, I thought. Did you guys keep up with, I know Matt, you were like, Sephiroth was the one where you were like, all right, I'm in, and then you never went back to him, did you?
No, I think the hype of like who was coming and whatever was more fun than me going back to it. Like, not to say that I wouldn't play it if we all got together or whatever, but yeah, it's by myself. I don't know. That campaign burns me out. I know there's the spirit stuff and the regular like just like character arcade mode or whatever, but yeah, no, I think my time with Smash by myself, it's past. In the past, I think I just play that now with friends.
Yeah, that's kind of always been my approach too. Like, I would check in here and there when they added a new character. I wouldn't necessarily play it as them, but I would fight them.
Yeah.
But yeah, like it's kind of dropped off, and I think just with what's going on, current events kind of impacted that too, because this is a game I would only play with like in a group of friends and stuff, and that's kind of what kept that motivation going to wanting to keep playing it and stuff. And with everything, anything getting together in a group, it's just difficult now, even more so. But so that did kind of hinder it a little bit. But that being said, kudos to Sakurai and everyone involved, though. Like, we're never going to get something like this again, or at least not for a long time, if ever, It was very cool to be a part of this whole thing, even from like a spectator point of view.
Well, and I think like also to do it and do it well, because I think even some other games, contemporary games, have done the thing where they try and put everything in there that they can, but it's not something that I want to play or spend time with. This one has always been something where like I actively enjoy playing the game, and it's unlike anything else we've had or will have for some time. And I don't know how they do a follow up to this. I'm curious to see what Sakurai's next game is, but I still love it. It's still like a fun. I love jumping in and playing Smash.
Mm-hmm.
Just not online. We tried that a couple times, and it's just not. Yeah. Matt, you tried something for the first time this year.
Yeah.
Final Fantasy 15. Next one on our list.
The old Final Fantasy 15. I went in too. We didn't put this on the list, but I watched Kingsglaive alongside of it. Which
you did.
Which was interesting. Interesting. Nah, I mean, look, I shit on this game for far too long. When we got to it on the game of the year list, I guess I was treating it unfairly because I was saying it sucked and I never technically played it. So, I played it. I did enjoy it. It definitely has its problems. I discussed those at length. While playing it and when I finished it. I mean, it ended up being. I think it deserved to be. Not as a bad thing, but I think it deserved to be where it was on the list. After playing it, I didn't feel the need to move it up or down or anything. But no, it's interesting, and it's especially interesting playing that post 7 remake. You can kind of like, I know Joe, you alluded to it, like 15 as the they saw a vision, and then seems like 7 kind of like took the next level of that, and you can definitely see that coming the other way as well. Controlling only Noctis is a bit of a bummer after you can control the whole party in 7 remake at almost any time in battle. No, it is a good game. I definitely deserve to be on that list after playing it. But yeah, no, I definitely, some of the problems I had with that game definitely still came out while playing it. But no, it was good for me to go back to it, because actually after playing that and on the heels of 7 remake, especially as we get further down this list here, it makes me excited for 16.
Next on our list is Sonic and All-Stars Racing Transformed, which the only reason I wanted to include this because I could put this on every year's list. But this year it actually received an FPS boost from on the Series X and Series S consoles, which, having played this on PC a long time ago, you can see how good this game can look and run and feel. But inevitably, the way that you'd have to launch this game and get it to boot into those higher resolution modes, Sega had this really weird like wrapper after the fact to configure this stuff, and the fact that it's just so easy to just buy the game for $20 or something on the Xbox store, turn on the Xbox and play it at a super high frame rate, super high resolution, it feels like a brand new game again. And while I felt like the Sonic Team Racing was kind of a letdown from a couple years ago, this still feels great. And it's got Danica Patrick, so. But I think this and Titanfall 2 is also on our list a little bit down the way. But like Titanfall 2 is another one with FPS boost that just, it makes those games feel so different and so much more alive. And it's cool that a feature like that, I think like if we did have a traditional awards thing this year, I was going to make an award called Best New Thing and call it and give it to FPS boost, because I think all of that stuff that Xbox did with the backwards compatible library to make those games and enhance those games, make them better and enhance them, was super welcomed and validated getting a new console when there haven't been too many games that were Series X exclusive that I was like completely in love with. Having that back catalog to go to in a meaningful way was cool. Shin Megami Tensei 5 finally released, bringing an end to the long pondering of when is that game from the Switch's reveal going to come out. It came out, and it's really good. The story kind of feels very similar to 3, but I think that there's a lot of modern conveniences. I think that they've added that make the game play and move a little bit better. It still, in so many ways, feels like a PS2 game in the best way. Any longtime listeners know that when we say something feels like a PS2 game, that is a compliment, not a detractor. I love the way this game feels, and I love everything about this game. I had a lot of fun exploring monster combinations, because even though I've played quite a bit of this series at this point, I still don't know all of the fusions you can do, and I don't know every monster that's in the game. Some were brand new to this game for the first time. And I just generally had a great time with this game. I still need to wrap it up, but I love it. And I think if you've got a Switch and you're looking for Pokemon with demons, you should give Shin Megami Tensei 5 a try. Matt, you played a bit of this, and you played 3
not current
HD.
Yeah. Sadly, and this is just my own fault, not the game's fault. I started it, I ran into that early brick wall right at the beginning of that game, and just kind of fell off it for some other things. But no, I'll get back into this at some point. Whether I just restart my whole game, I don't know. I don't think I even made it that far to even have to do that. But no, like this, and then yeah, I'll just get into it. Like 3. When I played 3, I think 3 is a very transformational point for me when we look at the year of what I played, and that was like the first time where first time in a while, I think I went outside my comfort level of a video game. I saw the trailer. It was really the release trailer for 3. I sat down and watched it, and man, it was the most random, bizarre, just most Japanese trailer I think I've seen in recent memory. And it just looked interesting enough. I was kind of itching for a turn-based RPG, so I said, why not? I bought it, and man, I had a good time. Again, another one I never finished, but I definitely made it much further than I did in 5. But all the ropes, and I'm going to use it again because it is a PS2 game. Those PS2 tropes of just remembering to save, is a big one. But yeah, like it definitely got me into the series. I'm definitely, I look at JRPGs, I think, now in a different way, instead of just immediately dismissing them like I have in the past. And not just because I think they're bad, they've never been up my alley. But like now I'm like thinking about Persona a little bit more. Now I'm thinking about like, I don't know, maybe not Xenoblade or something like that. But when something comes out like that, I'm going to look at it with a little bit more like, maybe, instead of just immediately like, nah, I'll never get to that. But no, as far as these games go, I think they're really cool. I like the turn-based. I like the strategy within the turn-based on how to get extra turns, how you lose turns. I think that's clever. And I've been saying it since the start when I started playing 3. This is like the adult Pokemon I think I've been looking for since not playing Pokemon anymore.
Yeah. Tetris Effect Connected next on the list, which I kept coming back to throughout the year, especially on Series X. It was like a great technical showpiece. It was one where like when it came out on VR and Mark, you brought your VR over, I remember like falling back in love with the game even more than just playing it in the core effect. But then seeing it 4K, like really putting a new nice TV through its paces with this game helped. I think we had a great time playing it together, but also it ended up at the top of our Game of the Year list. It was the winner, and I think, Mark, you made that call to put it back at the top, and it was the right call to make. Like, I replayed through Journey mode at some point, and like everything about this game just feels really, really, really great. And I think Connected especially adds all those new multiplayer features that were not there at launch when it first came out in 2018, and they've just enhanced the, pun intended, the game even more.
Yeah, the co-op was the highlight for me with this. I really enjoyed that. I think it was perfect that it was 3-player, and the way it's handled, where we each are working on our own thing, but then it gets to that point where boom, connected, like the title. And
with the song connected.
Yep. Every time too. Until the music changed to like the next world or whatever. But for that meantime, was really enjoying that. Yeah, it's so cool. I didn't think they could. It's always amazing when you enjoy a game so much and it's like, how can you top this? And then they're like, oh, well, here you go. And it's that doesn't happen a lot. So yeah, I don't know. It's and I remember this was a game that was like, yeah, I liked it. You know, it's Tetris. Like, I'm never gonna hate Tetris. But I remember not being as passionate about it initially as you two. And now I feel like we're all there now. I feel like it's all unified in sync.
We're all connected.
Couldn't think of a word.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really good. I love continuing to play that game, and I'm excited to see what Enhanced does next year. I know Humanity's out this year. I know that's not directly an Enhanced game, but they're helping with it. But yeah. Forza Horizon 5 came out November 9th. Or I guess it was early if you bought a deluxe. Whatever. Came out this year. And yeah, really good. I liked Forza Horizon 5 a lot. Matt, you spent a lot more time with it than I think any of us had.
I think I did the thing that I said I was going to do that week, where I played it for about 10 hours or something like that, then I fall off it hard. And that's just because I think I got my fill of that. But man, this game was really good, like really good. And I think what separates this from like your traditional motorsport or Gran Turismo is like like you don't have to progress the game necessarily by racing. There's all kinds of different things you can do, like with the speed traps, the dumb community event things with like, top speeds. I only played it one time, but I still can't believe they got a battle royale mode in a car game. That's very weird. And then I think the highlight, and I think they spent a lot of time emphasizing this up upon or until release, but it makes sense after being in it. But Mexico was, I think, a big and great decision in locale. Especially coming from 4. Like, I didn't play a lot of 4, but part of the reason why I didn't play a lot of 4 is because when I watched Joe play 4, I just could not get into like the countryside, like Britain, Europe, whatever that was supposed to be. But Mexico is so diverse, and like you got your street racing, you got your sand, grass, jungles. Like it hits it all, and it's really, really good.
Climb to the mountaintops and volcanoes and stuff. Like, that was wild.
Yeah.
I think the only thing I didn't like in this game was the soundtrack was, I think, lacking in comparison to the previous, but it feels really good to play. I had a lot of fun. I've tried it out. I've been like occasionally testing out xCloud to like put that through its paces and just see how that goes. And I did a race or two and it felt good over that as well. But again, another one that helped to validate the purchase of a new console, because it was difficult to do that, I think, in the last year. Matt, I think this next one's all you. Mario Party Superstars.
Yeah, don't play it.
Oh.
Yeah, moving on.
There it is. No, Mark and I played this one. It's a complete remake of 5 or 6 boards from Mario Parties 1, 2, and 3. And then they've included mini games from all of Mario Party history leading up to this one. And I kind of bought it on a whim, and we've played through, I think, every course at this point, and like just had a lot of fun playing through Mario Party again. There's still the frustration of and I think what's neat is there are a lot of options you can turn on or off in terms of bonus stars and all that stuff. Because that's been the part that sucks, is like you just keep doing really well in the minigames or something, and then the end of it pops and like, I don't know, Wario
you
wins
realize it doesn't
whatever.
fucking matter, and you wasted 2 hours of your time.
But it was the fun we had along the way.
Okay.
And it's good. I think a lot of the old mini games still work on Switch, despite them maybe originally being designed for an N64 controller or something like that.
Yeah.
You've played a bit of it too, right, Mark?
Yeah. Whenever a friend's house for like a little group like holiday thing, and we played that appropriately, and and I think it was early this year too. I had played on the 64, I think we played Mario Party 2. And so playing the same map twice, get to see the differences, compare and contrast. It was really neat. Did Horrorland, or as I like to call Chomp Call City, because that item, ridiculous. The Chomp Call or Whistle, I think, whatever, where you can just steal a star, or no, it warps you.
Yep.
It warps you to the star point.
Warps you to, yeah.
It's like, and then like the meta of that, of just trying to like, oh no. I think Chomp Call moves the star. It doesn't take you to it.
Yeah, the golden pipe takes you to the star.
So Chomp Call moves the star, so your opponents can't get it if they're right by it. And like trying to figure that out based on your turn time, when to use it, was just another layer to the game that I was not appreciating, but at the same time, I love that chaos that was in there. But the quality of life improvements overall is really solid. I love that when you're rolling the dice, it shows how many spaces you are away from the star instead of having looking at the map all the time. It's like all that's like there's more information there to provide you with everything that you need before making a step, even though I ignored most of it because that's just how I am. And to the mini games, I love that the practice mode is within that screen. You don't have, it doesn't warp you to another thing, so there's no time to transition and worry about that crap. You can keep practicing as much as you want in that preparation screen before starting the game.
That is actually a really nice touch as someone who has played them.
Yes, it's like that was a blessing. And yeah, adding the stickers was a fun way to troll while it's not your turn. You take up the screen.
Oh, I slam those trigger buttons just to make Luigi pop up and go, no!
Like, there was a part where, like, I couldn't see how many coins I had or to get a star because sticker kept hovering over it or just staying there. I'm like, I can't actually see what I need to see right now. I hate this. But it reminded me of Mario Golf and for 64, and I appreciate that, where you can just, like, hit a C button and have your characters just do audibles the whole time.
Yeah.
The only thing I wish they kept were the costumes themed with the boards. There's none of that. But that's fine. For the quality of life improvements that this game has,
the trade-offs are worth it. And I really hope they add more boards to this. Yeah. Like, it'd be so good. I'd even pay for them. Like, I think Nintendo's been pretty great in the Switch era of adding free DLC to keep games alive, but I would pay for 5 more boards. For sure.
Yeah.
Castlevania Rondo of Blood. I can't believe it took me as long as it did to play this game, but I finally played and beat Rondo of Blood in 2021, and I've had this internal debate with myself of whether or not I like this more than Symphony of the Night, which is insane for me to even think, because Symphony of the Night's long been my favorite, not just Castlevania, but my favorite game. And Rondo has been like, it's really up there, man. In terms of the old 2D non-exploration style of Castlevania games, this one does it. And it introduces a lot of the exploration and adventure stuff that you could see. They took those elements of this game and said, what if we went further with this? And that's what got us to Symphony of the Night. But playing this made me appreciate Symphony a lot better. I love Richter now. Like, I liked Richter before just because I knew he existed, but now I really get it, and I'm like, I'm fully in. But I think this one just feels really good to play when you really get it. It's hard because it's an old Castlevania game, but I think once you kind of commit to it and you learn how to play it, it feels really great to play, and it still holds up. I mean, the big thing with this one for me is I think that now especially, longtime fans of old Konami games are constantly wondering, will they ever come back? Will they ever make a new one? Will they please make a new one? And I think that we start to get that. I think with Castlevania specifically, in the wake of the Netflix show, there's a huge wave of fans who, one, have never played a Castlevania game, and two, want to. And a lot of them are looking for something new. And I don't know, man, we got technically a new Castlevania game on Apple Arcade last year, and that's not what I wanted. But Rondo was one where I realized there's still a handful that I haven't played from the history that I'd like to explore. And I'm kind of doing that now with a lot of series where instead of hoping for something new, why don't I go back? And man, what they did with Rondo is super good. And I'm happy that I went back to it. And they also put out the Advanced Collection this year, which I think if you've never played Aria of Sorrow, that is worth the price of entry alone. But the other 3 games rather, are really great. They have a Dracula X, speaking of Rondo of Blood, which Dracula X was the Super Nintendo port of Rondo. It plays a bit differently, but it still has a lot of the same charm. There's some of the stuff that they just couldn't fit onto that cartridge, and with the amount of dev time they had to port it over. But I think that's a really great package as well. And last thing, if you're like, man, I wish I could play Rondo of Blood, I got me one of those analog turbo duos pre-ordered. Limited Run Games is putting out Rondo of Blood this year. I think this year. I don't know if they put a date, but they're putting out an actual physical, like, TurboGrafx version of it. You can buy, which I'm gonna buy, even though I don't have one of those consoles. Just because I want to own it, which I think is cool. But yeah, Rondo, man, if you've never played Rondo, or you can get it in that Castlevania Requiem collection, I just go do that, because it's Rondo of Blood's maybe the best Castlevania game ever made. We'll come back to that. Yeah. Speaking of best ever made, the Wii U had a video game called Fatal Frame 5, or Fatal Frame Maiden of Black Water, which got a release this year on modern platforms. And not much to say on it. I've never really played a Fatal Frame in depth until this one. But I had a lot of fun. I ended up picking it up on Switch so I could do motion controls, because remember, it was the Wii U gamepad, so you had to kind of line up the frame by tilting the camera. And yeah, I had a lot of fun with that. It came out right before Halloween, so it was like a nice little adventure through the Japanese woods to take pictures of ghosts. But on the same day, Pikmin Bloom released, which I immediately cast aside. Mark, you spent a good while with it, and then I kept up with it and ended up liking it quite a bit. Tell me about Pikmin Bloom.
So Niantic took on another property from Nintendo. Well, I guess, Pokemon's a weird one, right? Because it's not like Nintendo, but it is Nintendo. I don't know.
Yeah.
But, so they try to do like a similar Pokemon Go Ingress type approach to Pikmin, except this one is like the most casual, laid back one out of the whole bunch. It very promotes walking for everything, and it felt bare bones at first, and then I realized the more you level up is the more that it introduces new things to the game, and through that, even then, it's still like not too much, but it was fine enough to just kind of check into here and there, or daily if you need to. Even if you couldn't get the steps that you needed to level up, you could at least send your Pikmin out on little expeditions to go pick up stuff for you and have that going on in the background while you do the rest of your day. I'm curious to see where this one actually like goes, but I did drop off for now just because I just couldn't keep up with it. Like I was trying to compete against with you, Joe, and my other friends, but I don't know. I think I just had shifted my focus onto other things. I was like, I'm not gonna. This is just taking up space on my phone right now, so I got rid of it. But yeah, but I do like it though.
Yeah, I'm still checking in with it almost daily, at least just to like pluck the Pikmin that have grown, and maybe I don't know, plant some flowers or do something like that. I'm like a couple flower plantings away from hitting level 30, And I got my brother into it as well, and he kind of quickly jumped till he's like one level below you, Mark, and then I haven't seen him make any progress since. I think he's just kind of dropped off of it as well. But
gets tough. Like the steps just keep increasing.
I didn't expect it to be good, but it turned out to be.
It's like, this is really so simplistic, but I kept coming back to it. I was like, all right, well, there's obviously something here, you know? I like that it includes your Mii, so you can connect your Nintendo account to it if you want, or not. You're still making a Mii. So that was a nice little, I wish Miitomo was still around feeling. And my favorite part of this whole game is actually the end of the day. So like at 9 p.m. it'll be like, hey, how'd your day go? And you can pick between 3 emotions, like sad, neutral, and happy. And then it will grab a picture from your phone to try to best represent that day, or you can pick another one. You can add as many as you want. You're basically scrapbooking your day. And I think that's a cool thing to look back on. And it's really funny when you see the main picture. It's like, oh yeah, that's right. I did that. That was that day.
That was the day I fell in love with Reba McEntire.
Right. So even there was days where I didn't really play it much, I would at least do the 9 p.m. thing and be like, if something was eventful that did happen, even if the game wasn't involved, there was a cool way to kind of log that in there, like a weird like photo diary or whatever. And just I really appreciated that side of it.
Matt, Darkest Dungeon 2 released in early access late October.
Yeah, this was it snuck up on me. I knew it was coming, but then it just I looked and I can't remember if it came out or it was like 2 days away from releasing. But no, I picked it up and it's weird because it's one of those games. It's not like it's a Darkest as 2, but like it's almost, I mean, it's the same core turn-based stress level, all that stuff, combat, but it transformed the game around it. It's now a roguelike, which is it has that Oregon Trail vibe to it as well. As you're kind of going along literally the trail and kind of picking your path of like, do you want to go towards an enemy camp? Do you want to go here? There's a secret like there's a little pick and choose adventure, not terribly too far removed from something like oh my god, the space game, this FTL. So yeah, no, it was something that I expected it, but at the same time didn't expect it then. And it turned out it's still Darkest Dungeon, still really good. That tough as nails turn-based RPG.
Mark, there was Dark Pictures Anthology, had another game, House of Ashes, but I think more, because you mentioned that one is a little bit more to talk about it to spoil it, but Inscription was just around the same time.
Yeah. Like for Dark Pictures, like all I can say about that one is just like, if you played the other ones, it's I think this one is worth investing into for sure. It's a little weird at first, but if you just keep going, I think the payoff will be worth it. So yeah, and I like to secretly call that one House of Ashley Tisdale, probably like everyone else. But
is she in it?
Yeah, she like each game has like a. They always grab some actor as like one of the main characters to be like the front of the box or whatever, and she's in that one.
Oh, that's funny.
But yeah, Inscription is, man, I had different expectations going into it, and not to say that like the game is, it's not a negative thing at all. I just wasn't expecting for it wasn't expecting it to go the way that it did. But yeah, that one's really cool. It's just it's all card based, but it has like a weird like eerie spookiness to it. Some elements there. It's like part like creepypasta, if there's like a weird narrative going on in the background that you're trying to piece together, and it kind of walks you through it. Like, you don't have to go out looking for it as I thought you were needing to, but like this hit, the way that there's like different card games in it, that's the cool thing. Like, you thought it was just one game, and it is technically just a one game, but it's presented in various ways as you're playing. And I think to learn that as you're going can be a little overwhelming, but at the same time, it is very cool to go through that whole trip. Yeah, I think that one's definitely worth checking out for people if you're into card battlers.
Next on the list, Glay Lancer, which is a port to modern consoles of Advanced Buster Hawk Glay Lancer for the Sega Mega Drive, and it's $7. Go buy it. It has the best track one you'll ever hear in your entire life. I love it. It was born out of my interest in it was born out of me getting into shooting games this year, and it's one of the best. And I love that it's on modern platforms. You should check that one out. Back for Blood, Mark, finally released after long anticipation.
Yeah. It was interesting going from the beta to this. Like, I had it originally pre-ordered through Steam because I just wanted to go through there because, longtime fan of Left 4 Dead. So I just wanted to like keep all that in one spot. But then I canceled the pre-order because I heard it was coming to Game Pass. So went through that. It's cool, but it doesn't have the same magic as Left 4 Dead for me. The card system is interesting. I like it, but I don't know. Something about the game's vibe overall, it doesn't have me coming back a lot. So I'm not always... It's funny enough with the title, but yeah, I don't know. It is a solid game. It is just another Left 4 Dead, more or less, just a little more involved, longer campaign for sure. But I'm glad you could take breaks in it. You could put a bookmark in it and come back. You don't have to start over every time. I think that's a really cool thing. It does have some solid systems, but yeah, there's just something. It's missing just a little something. Like, I don't know what. And the multiplayer is odd. Like, the co-op is cool, but the versus mode, it's not the same as Left 4 Dead, where you just have like a group of special infected versus the survivors. It's like it's there, but instead of going through the maps, it's just like a one spot fight off a horde thing, and it's not that great. But it's a cool game if you have Game Pass. Check it out that way.
Yeah. Funny that you mention a long-anticipated game is just kind of missing something, because Metroid Dread released on October 8th, which was a big surprise that... I mean, it wasn't a surprise, because if you go back to every prediction show we've ever had, I'm always saying that a Fusion sequel would be developed by Mercury Steam and would be released on platform X, Y, or Z. And I've said that since, like, forever. But we finally got it. It's called Metroid Dread. They revived the name. And ultimately, I felt like it was great. It was a great time through, and I played it, and that's it. But it did not last with me the way that other Metroid games... I beat the original Metroid this year, because it also... it had a 35th anniversary, so I played through that on the Mister. And I remember my time with Metroid more than Metroid Dread. And I probably spent more time with Metroid Dread, just hours-wise, but the impact that Metroid had on me felt stronger than Dread. But I still think that a lot of the mobility and the movement and the fun of playing as Samus in this game, I think that where it takes Samus as a character is exciting, but it feels blasphemous to say, but I'm almost more excited about Prime 4 than I am about a sequel to Dread in the 2D traditional sense.
Still excited about that logo years later.
Dude, color me interested. What was your takeaway from Metroid Dread, Matt?
A lot of what you said. I don't have the Metroid lore. Like, I haven't played a lot of the other games. Really, I guess just Super Metroids. You're really the only one I've played. I didn't even finish that one. I got towards the end, but yeah, no. I think a lot of the, from Super Metroid to this one, a lot of the new systems, especially the speed of Metroid, the sliding, the mechanics, is just a little bit of a bummer that the Dread part was the worst part of this game. it has some other problems with it. I think I talked about the boss fights at length on the actual podcast, but yeah, I think it was really good. But just like you, it was really good for those like 8 hours or 6 or whatever, and then I've moved on, and I haven't come back to that game. And you've said things about why you would come back to that game as someone who did. So yeah, that's kind of where it's at. But still, I think it's worth at least a playthrough. I think it's still really good.
Yeah, I'm happy that it did. Yeah, I'm happy they made it. I'm happy that there's a new Metroid game. I'm happy that it sold so well and that people are excited about Metroid. Alan Wake seems to be selling pretty well because it had a remastered version and now a sequel on the way. Mark, this is kind of, I think, everything you've been dreaming of since 2010.
Yeah, I'm just happy it's finally happening. But this remastered one, pretty good. You know, the only real difference is like the visual stuff, but it plays the same for the most part. Still smooth. Visuals are great. It did remind me that you got to be careful with playing almost any game day one, just because of bugs and stuff. So just learn to be prepared to expect that and whatever. But after that, like I didn't get to finish the remastered one. I wanted to, but I don't know. Still enjoying my time with it. Still a good game. Still love it. I'm happy that 2 is finally a thing.
And a proper 2.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, proper 2. Yeah, good stuff.
We've got a couple of these. Actually, we've got 4 Resident Evil games on the list this year, but we're gonna save Village later on for the chronological. But let's run down. We've got Resident Evil 6 here first.
Okay.
Mark, you played through 6 this year on stream.
Yeah, a friend and I went through that. We never really played it before. Maybe a demo before, but I know the consensus on it with the general public. But I'll just say this, and then we can move on. Like, yes, not a good Resident Evil game. Story, blah, whatever. It does, but interesting characters. My favorite was Jake and Sherry. I think it's a good co-op game, though. I think it's a really fun co-op game. I think it has the best movement of any Resident Evil game so far. The way that you can dive and crawl and roll and do like the calling and commands and stuff, like it took what 5 had and enhanced it in that. It does have some pretty bad, frustrating scenes that are chase sequences. I don't care for those. But aside from that, I do think this is a pretty solid co-op game. I wouldn't recommend it playing with the AI, but yeah, having 2 friends for it, best way to go about it. And Jake's ending has the best song.
Oh, yes, it does. Confirmed. I was never interested in this game because of all the negative attention it received until you talked about it and how much fun you had with it. And now having gone through, because I played through 2 when we gave it Game of the Year in 2019, but then this year I finally played through that 3 remake from last year, or from 2020. And I loved that game a lot. Like, it was shorter than 2, but I really liked what they did with that 3 remake. And I had played that after playing 7 for the first time, because I finally played 7 this year. And I really just got into Resident Evil. So I think, like, from a lore perspective, hearing what 6 did was like, whoa, they put all those characters are grown up and they're all, what? Huh? 6 and 5, I think, are the 2 that I've not played of the core series at this point. So I am curious about it, but I really liked 7 from top to bottom, and I really liked that 3 remake. We'll talk a little bit more about Village later on, but yeah. Next on the list, Gran Turismo for the PlayStation Portable. I specifically put this one on here. I feel like anything could have been put on here, but this launched the PSP Go and was the big kick to get digital versions of PSP games up on that store, because obviously the PSP Go was digital only. And 2021, we almost lost the ability to buy PS3, Vita, and PSP games natively in the store. Sony had announced there was rumors leading up to it. Then Sony confirmed those rumors and was about to remove access to all of those games, which would have been a big, big loss. And I think that we all kind of scrambled to buy some stuff. And I called this one out just because I spent some time with this on PSP last year and had a lot of fun playing it, earning money, like playing the traditional Gran Turismo thing, and just kind of remembering why I didn't like what they had done with Gran Turismo Sport and the kind of like always online, always checking in, like needing to kind of like be in the moment, where this one for PSP was technically impressive, moving it from PS2 to PSP, and then also just the progression system was a lot of fun. But I just wanted to call out the PSN stuff because that was scary and sucked and is inevitable, I think, at this point. But for now, at least you can buy wallet credits on a different platform and then go back and buy stuff. We're through a page of our list here. We got a little bit more to go. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll talk a little bit more about the rest of 2021 right after this. Before we keep going down the list, just listeners, if you want to follow along right now, joining this podcast posting on thefreecheese.com is a list of every single game that we are talking about. Some of these we've added some write-ups for things we thought about the games. Some of it might kind of echo what we're talking about right now. Some of the lists might just have links to certain episodes where we talked about these games to go, if you want to take a deeper dive back through the year and hear what we talked, about in depth at that point. But yeah, our next one, brand new first game from the studio, previously just an animation studio, but got into games. Kina, Bridge of Spirits. Mark, you got rotten this year with Kina, Bridge of Spirits.
Yeah, very impressed by this game. It was nice to see like a new IP and having it be like it's not a full price game. It's like 10 to 12 hours, but it's a good like action adventure game. It's just a little nice digestible thing, and it's awesome. Like it has a good polish to it. Like no matter what setting you're on, at least on PC, it doesn't look bad. Like it holds, and like the combat's very intuitive. Like I tried to pick it up the other day because I never finished it, but just to see if I could, without like, oh crap, how do I do this? And it's like it's very simplistic. But yeah, it's I don't know what else to say about it. It's really good gameplay. The story is interesting. I think it checks off all the boxes for me in all the fields that I like. I just wish I had more time for it, but I hope more comes out of this game.
Yeah, I agree. And Phasmophobia is next on the list, which I don't think you've stopped playing since it first hit early access, Mark.
Yeah, I don't know what else I could say that I haven't said already with this one, but they keep improving it. I'm glad that team is growing, and it's slowly becoming... It's shaping its own identity. It started with just like Unity assets that you could, just get from a store and use that as like placeholders. So it's cool that they're like slowly weaning off of that into their own created stuff. The way they update and change the game is so cool. The VR support I'm very appreciative of. I'm not always playing in VR, but the fact that this game was made with the intention of it being in VR, first and foremost, like cemented that faith of like, all right, this is never going to be not supported. And yeah, only hoping that this just keeps growing.
Spelunky 2. I finally got into it once it launched on Switch, and now I think I'm going to re-get into it as it comes out on Xbox for on Game Pass. But it's kind of everything I wanted in a sequel to Spelunky, which is still a lot of mystery. The movement still feels the same. Like there's a lot of like nuanced stuff that you just kind of learn and becomes muscle memory and just rote into your hands as you play Spelunky. That all of that stuff's here as well with Spelunky 2. And if you liked the first one, Spelunky 2 it's more of that. I think the only scary bad thing is that I don't know if I can go back to 1 at this point. It would be kind of a weird, I don't know. I'd like to, but I'm not sure. WarioWare Get It Together released on September 10th. I don't think I took off work for this game, but I think I was off for something else, and just so happened that like that game launched on that day, and I played it. I beat it in a single sitting, and I was kind of let down. I was like so excited we got a new WarioWare on Switch, but now we've got a Switch that doesn't have detachable Joy-Con. So there's games in here that are, everything they put on this game needs to be played on the Switch Lite, right? So they couldn't go full Joy-Con party with this. That's not to say that the games are worse because of it, but when I think I pictured a WarioWare on the Switch, I thought about how weird they could get with some of the motion stuff and whatever with HD Rumble and things that were exclusive to the Switch controller. But really it just, I don't know, this just felt like a smaller project or something. It just, they kind of like hit the hook of what they wanted this game to be in the first like area, and then they repeat it 5 times while adding very little to each iterative, micro game session. A bummer, but I'm happy we got another one. I hope that there's still more, but I don't know. I kind of, this one just I didn't love it. And you kind of had the same thing with Sonic Colors Ultimate, Mark, right?
Yeah, like I came into it very strong because I still think it's a good entry point for this type of Sonic game where it's, it's 3D and it's this type of Sonic that has the boost versus spin dashing. I do think that, but as it went on, and I think it's been patched since I've had these issues, but I don't know. You kind of start to see it for what it is, and even though I do think it is a decent 3D Sonic game, it still is a Sonic game. Sad to say it like that, but yeah. And I thought the credits were unskippable, but they are. You can skip them, but if you want the achievement, you have to sit through the whole thing, which is like over 30 minutes. But they've at least patched it to where the music doesn't run out.
Oh, well, that's nice. So it will stay in silence.
Right, so it'll stay looping. But yeah, I don't know. It's fine.
Well, not to incite a war, but how does Sonic Colors Ultimate compare to Super Mario 3D World, specifically Bowser's Fury? Because you played that earlier in the year, and it kind of seemed like it was starting to set the stage for what new Mario could be, right?
I enjoyed Bowser's Fury. I loved the like sandboxy, not exactly sandboxy, but like you could kind of pick where you wanted to go and get whatever cat shines that you wanted to get first before opening up the rest of it. But that one was so easy to digest it and get through. Even though like the boss fights were a little weird, it wasn't as impactful because you had to do it like 3 times basically if you wanted to get everything. So it kind of loses its magic the more you do it. But the way Mario was traversing, I thought was really cool. Not having it just on like a 2D, 2.5D camera or whatever, really helped. And yeah, I kind of hope more comes out of that one. But definitely, I would pick Bowser's Fury over Sonic for sure.
Yeah. Next on the list, Spider-Man Shattered Dimensions, specifically the DS version. I played this on a whim in my like recent weird I remembered Spider-Man existed and wanted to play Spider-Man stuff. But this one, I played the PS3 version a long time ago when it first came out, and this DS version I never played, but going through it, it's a completely different game, and it's kind of sparked a good conversation on the podcast regarding ports that we don't get anymore, because now everything is everywhere. It's the same game across all platforms, where something like this is just kind of lost to time, where we used to get, you know, a handheld version and a console version, and they were wildly different. And in this case, this was like a Metroidvania with Spider-Man, which is cool, that we didn't otherwise have. But yeah, I like that one a lot. Mark, you got Dead Island up next.
Yeah, I never really finished this game when it first came out. I only played like the first like hour or so, and then just dropped off because Left 4 Dead existed, and this was in like the whole rise of just zombie games being everywhere, as to where now probably everybody's sick of them. But I'm still playing them. Then I finally beat it, and it was cool at first, but then the longer you go, it was just like, all right, I'm done with this. Like, I just want it to be over with. Like, it has that jank throughout the whole thing, but I don't know. I love the gameplay. I love the way that you have like a skill tree with each character. They have their own like perks. The weapon system was pretty cool. You could upgrade and could craft things, kind of like Dead Rising. That's all really neat, but by the time you get to like the third act of the game, it kind of starts to fall short, and it feels a little rushed. And it's already a janky game, but the jank becomes real at that point. Glad I played it. Glad I finished it. Probably won't go back to it.
And then Mad Max, you also spent some time with.
That one out.
Kind of in.
Yeah, I wish I finished that one. That one's really cool. I actually loved, like, even though it's just like wasteland, I actually loved driving around it and beating the shit out of people and getting into like car fights and stuff. Like, it was really neat. I want to go back and finish that one, but every time I look back at it, it's always fond memories.
Yeah, those types of games, I think they're like understated when they release, because it's got a big name behind it, but the game's kind of whatever. And I think that after like some middling reviews and talk about it, it just kind of gets forgotten to time. But so often revisiting them, you can find something really, really great hidden within.
Yeah, like adding a hood ornament from Rockstar.
Oh, what was it?
Like adding a hood ornament to your car from Rockstar Energy.
Yeah. Oh, we didn't even bring that up with Halo Infinite earlier. We forgot about the...
Right.
No, we did. The progression got better.
Oh, yeah, you're right. Just got to buy some cans first. Yeah, Spookware came out, Mark, end of August. And I think kind of kicked off the spooky season for us.
Yeah, so I guess to tie it with WarioWare, because it's basically that, like, that is its inspiration. It's not a scary game by any means. I know it says spook in the title, but it has spooky elements. But it's not like a straight up I'm too scared to play this kind of game. Really enjoyable. There is more content coming. So you can play this in like a few hours and just be done with it. But I really enjoyed it. The art style is really cool. The games were very creative. I love that like each chapter of it had like its own theme and the games around it, and like it all worked well with each other. And I really liked it. Like you're three protagonists the whole time, and you just get to see the way that how they interact with things. Each have their own personalities. It's a really charming game, and I'm glad more is coming from it. But if you were disappointed with WarioWare, I think this will make up for it and then some.
I want to go back to it after you sent us a game called Bad Ben on itch, and I had a lot of fun with Bad Ben. That was such a weird, and I forgot about how much fun like small indie horror stuff is. Even though I know Spookware is not horror, but like that kind of took me back into a mindset I haven't been in quite some time. So I'm excited to kind of explore a little bit more of that side of things in the indie side. Yeah,
I love every game needs a dedicated curse button. Like Luigi calling Mario, you need to just have profanities.
Yep. And my screen's kind of obfuscated here. I'm sorry, I can't read this, but there's some sort of religious text written here as this next entry.
I don't know what I'm allowed to say about it, honestly. I have certain people probably listening in.
We could just say the title and move on, maybe?
Yeah. And if anyone's interested, I think there's some links we can provide.
Yeah, you know where to find more information about this. Cookie Clicker. And I'll leave it at that. Picross got a big release this year in the form of Picross S, Genesis, and Master System Edition. It's Picross, but there's Sega characters and stuff, which rules. You should go play that, because Sega rules and Picross rules. I'm not sure if this one rules, but Matt, this was... I mean, you were unstoppable over the summer. This was the Matt... It took over.
Yeah.
Pokemon Unite finally released, or Pokedota, if you will.
Yeah, Pokedota. Yeah, I like this a lot, and then I stopped playing it for my own mental well-being because the solo queue was absolutely fucking awful to suffer through to get to that top tier rank. But there's potential with this game. It definitely is a lot easier to approach than Dota. At least like starting with a MOBA. It's definitely less intimidating. And the nice thing is, I guess with this, if you haven't like played a MOBA before, like if you pay attention to Pokemon, you kind of already know what to expect with your Pokemon when you're picking them. You kind of know what kind of powers you're going to get. But then there's definitely the things to learn with a MOBA that I think a lot of people who were first trying this out did not know about, like the central monsters, like your Rotoms, and stuff like that. So, yeah, no, I think it's an interesting game for sure. If you're into MOBAs, I think it's a good starting point. But, yeah, I had to step away from it for my own mental well-being. That solo queue was killing me. So yeah, they've been adding stuff though to it. I've been seeing as time has gone on. I know it's on different seasons now, and it has its own battle pass and things along that nature. But yeah, no, it's interesting for sure. And I didn't put it down because I did not like the game. It was just mental well-being.
Yeah, I thought about going back to it, but I haven't. But I do like the idea of putting Pokemon in games that are not the core Pokemon series. So I hope that there's more of that in the future, just to see what other kind of weird stuff we can get into. Mark, you went knocking on death's door this summer.
Yeah, that's I like it. It's cool. It's like an isometric action adventure. You're just cool little bird and crow. And, you have a sword, you can get daggers, you can get other weapons, you can even wield an umbrella. But you're just kind of traversing throughout these lands, basically Zelda-like, and trying to discover, where you can go, what you should do, there is kind of a set way to, like, who to take down, because, certain bosses that you got to defeat and whatever, to continue the story, but, I can see that it's a good game. I can see what to appreciate, but because I kind of dropped off of it and really haven't been in the mood to play it since, I kind of forget what I needed to do or where to go, and I just don't have it. I just don't have the incentive still to come back and finish it, but I do think it is a solid game still, despite my own personal issues.
Doki Doki Literature Club Plus, which
so
added new content to the game and ported it to Switch and I guess other platforms officially.
Yeah, I think it's everywhere now, but you could still play the original one for free, on Steam, whatever. But this one I think is really cool. I thought it was just going to be like just a port or whatever, but they had to add like their own operating system, in-game operating system, when you boot up the game because it does involve computer files and stuff that you have to go through. But the extra content, like the actual DLC to it, I thought that was very heartfelt. Like, there is a trigger warning when playing this game. There are sensitive topics that it will go into and at a great length, especially with mental health stuff. So just if you're not familiar, there's a warning there. But the content isn't it's very heartfelt. There's nothing creepy or weird with that. I thought it was really cool to have these characters, see how they met and see how that grew. And there's just so many special little things that they added to this too, and that you can go looking for if you know where to look. So, pretty good deal.
And speaking of special things that were added to make a game a little bit better, Olympic Games Tokyo 2020, the official video game, I think drew both of you into it because of its inclusion of Sonic the Hedgehog as a mascot, playable mascot character. How did this hold up? Like, I guess, like, when's the last time you played an Olympics game, and how does this hold up now that the Olympics are gone?
Ooh,
I don't know how it holds up with the Olympics being gone. The last time I played an Olympics game was probably as a Blockbuster rental, like in 2000 or like for PS2. But no, I remember those games were not good. I wanted them to be good, but they were not good. They were usually button mashing affairs or very not good mechanics for something. But this was weird because this I don't know. It expanded upon its controls. It had a lot of sports I wasn't expecting. And there was some like for things like soccer and stuff and baseball, like there were like simple mechanics that got you into the game and at least got you like into it. But then there was like the advanced stuff you could look for and get to make yourself a little bit better and whatever. So yeah, like they definitely came a long way into like mechanics and controls and just general gameplay of these games. And there was a lot of sports here. I was shocked at the number that they ended up having. Yeah, no, I mean, I don't even own the game. I played it for that free weekend, and I got my taste of it, I think, in 1 or 2 nights, playing that Sonic's mascot character, and for laughs. And yeah, no, that was my time with it.
Yeah, it's a solid game. It's definitely like to have a top 5, this would be like probably number 2 for me or something, maybe 3.
No way.
But yeah, like the last Olympic game I played was on the 64. It was the Winter Olympics, so opposite of this one because this is like basically summer. But yeah, I don't know. Like I in this one I played a little more recently just to like keep my thoughts in check with it, and I still have a good time with it. I love just how simple it is overall. Like the menus it's just all in one spot for the most thing, and then you want to get into something, boom, just right there. And then the way that they design the controls for each sport, it does feel very intuitive, and I like that. Even though you have to go looking for it, the advanced controls, it's a little weird to like try to learn it. Like you have to look off of what it shows you and then try to apply that, and it's like, oh, okay, this is all right. So there's a lot of like trial and error with like advanced controls for some of the sports, but overall, still having a good time with it. I still think it's a solid overall experience.
Maybe I'll have to grab that when it hits another sale. I didn't realize it was that high on your like ranking list. Anniversary time. Quake turned 25 this year, and so Quake eventually came to everything. After, what was that, QuakeCon? They announced a port that hit all modern platforms. If you already owned it on Steam, they upgraded what you already had. But prior to that, at the actual time of the 25th anniversary in June, I got way into Quake and started playing it on PC, but then found out you could play it via homebrew on 2DS, and was doing that and literally transferring the Steam files to the 2DS so that I could, because the game's there, but you need to actually like have a copy of the game legally to get it to run on 2DS. So I was like transferring that and transferring save files between the two, and they worked. And it was like this cool little thing where I'm playing the same game on my 2DS, then putting it back on the PC the next day to play it on the big screen. And it was just really, really cool. And when it finally released on Switch and everything else, I grabbed it on Switch and on Game Pass, and Quake still feels so good. And I played a bit of the multiplayer, and I wish that it's hard to queue into a lobby now. I don't think many people are playing it. I still want to try that horde mode with you guys, but like I hope Quake has a future, because Quake is a lot of fun. And I look forward to more Quake, hopefully. Did you guys play a bit of it last year, or?
I never got around to it.
Yeah, I was looking to see if anything else on the list kind of tied to Quake, but no. Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart. Maybe one of the few PS5 games
Well, I
this
think
year?
this was it's not by technicality now, but I think this was the first party PlayStation 5 exclusive until they bought Bluepoint, or not Bluepoint, sorry, Housemarque after this came out, making Returnal now that thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I think I talked about it at more length on the podcast, but it's Ratchet and Clank. It's just a very pretty. I liked it. I thought the things they did with it with the controller were cool, but like, it's a Ratchet and Clank game. Like it, yeah. Weapons were cool. Settings were cool. Characters were funny. Ratchet and Clank on PS5.
Another one on PS5, Final Fantasy VII Remake Intergrade, which was PS5 exclusive until now. I guess this is out on PC.
Right. But you might still want to play on PS5, evidently. Yeah, so I think I would have been curious about this remake if it did include the intermission DLC, but the intermission DLC made it a lot for me to play this. And the like I said, I should have brought this up earlier, but the controlling Yuffie only thing kind of threw me off a little bit after playing 7 Remake, where at any time in the battle you can switch between party members. So it was a little weird. One, just kind of getting back into the combat, but then 2, having this new wrinkle thrown in where like you're kind of telling your party member what to do without switching to them. I think it was about as long as I thought it would be. I didn't like the way it ended. I thought it was a little weird where it ended, but the stuff after the ending and the credits for the DLC that kind of push the actual 7 party into the next part of regular 7's areas, and it also was this big giant metaphor for hey, we're going to take our time making this next part kind of feeling to it. But no, just like playing, and I went back and I played a lot of 7. Oh, not a lot, but I got back to like Aerith's town. The gameplay improvements are incredible. The frame rate being at 60 now, not having JPEG doors was nice. I did not get to confirm that there were 8 Stan Lees in that one scene. I was like just short of that part, sadly. But no, playing this. Of course, I would recommend 7 Remake on PS4. But like after playing this, I would kind of be wary to say like maybe wait until, if you want a PS5 especially, wait until you get the PS5 to play this on that, because I think you're going to get a much better experience with the integrated version than on PS4.
I wish I had more to say about Phantasy Star Online 2 New Genesis, but I don't. So let's talk Chivalry 2.
All right. This is a just mass chaos medieval. It's silly. It's fun. I like the mechanics. The mechanics are so deep with like all the ways you do slash and block and parry and all this stuff, but at the same time, it's so goofy to see a party like a lobby of like 64 players just swinging swords and throwing axes and bow and arrows and stuff on battlefields, trying to do Overwatch like objectives, like carry a payload, arm bombs, that kind of stuff, or like stay in an area for so long. It was a lot of fun. It had some problems early with the party system of all things. That kind of sucked, but it kind of plagued me off of it a little bit. But that's been fixed now, thankfully. There's been new maps and stuff that's been added, I believe, as well. But yeah, no, this is like one of those games I think like, I don't spend a lot of time in, but if someone was like, "Oh, hey, want to play Chivalry?" It's an automatic like, "Oh yeah, it's been a bit. Let's go back into it," and you can still have a good time.
Next on the list, Astalon Tears of Earth. Or is it Tears of Earth? Tears of Earth? Tears of Earth. Tears.
Yeah. This is a really cool Metroidvania. I think it kind of has elements of Castlevania 3 in there. Because like the way you can switch between characters. It's not on the fly, though. You actually have to find like a campfire and switch that way. So backtracking can be a little bit of a nuisance when it comes to stuff like that. But with each character, they have their own ways of opening up, like solving puzzles or finding new pathways. So you do have there is a reason to switch characters other than just your preferred fighting style or what have you. It is, I don't know. It's I didn't get to finish this one, but I loved everything about it. Like it has its difficulty, but the death is part of the process with this, because whatever experience you gained or orbs or whatever the currency is, you use that when you die to permanently upgrade your stats overall. So as you're going, you are technically getting better. But yeah, it's really neat. I really appreciated it. I hope more people check that one out if you're into that type of thing. The music is really cool. I love how when you go into certain rooms, the sound of it changes, where it could sound muffled or it's a different arranged version of it or something. It's a little more simplistic in the campfire area, but then once you're out in the rest of the castle, it's at full force. It gave me some like odd Shovel Knight vibes in that regard for some reason, but yeah, really neat retro little looking Metroidvania.
So you die, and dying's part of the game, and there are orbs you collect that you need to use. This sounds familiar to another game on our list that I played that Matt got the platinum in, and Matt has subsequently begun his journey across other iterations, but Dark Souls Remastered's on our list. Yeah, I mean, this is the Matt show. Dark Souls, okay. You set the goal this year to get the platinum trophy, and you did it.
Yeah. I mean, I guess it started last year, right? Where or not, like, I guess 2020. We'll just specify correctly. When I played Dark Souls Remastered for the first time, and I was enamored by it, especially like world design and just I could see the seeds of Bloodborne and stuff. And then PS5 reveal, got the Demon Souls reveal that was like automatic, like lock. I need that PS5 day one to play Demon Souls in a new light, not go back to my PS3 for it. And then I did that, and I was like, all right, let's do the Dark Souls Platinum. Got that. Dark Souls 2 happened. And then I even started Dark Souls 3 this year, and I'm all in on these more modern From Software games. I already have the Platinum of Sekiro, which is, plays a little bit differently. But, man, like, these games, I can't say enough. They are just right up my alley. They're difficult, but fair. There's mechanics to learn. There's dumb secrets. There's items that help along the journey. Like, it is... I don't know. I just don't know how to explain it. The only thing that I don't like about these games is, like, sometimes the lore is a little bit too go out to find it with, like, reading item descriptions and things like that. But at the same time, like, you get enough of it to know. And like in Dark Souls 2, I had a moment of panic where I didn't think I liked the game at first, but I got into it finally and ended up liking it. I think I have to call out that I played the what is it, Skylar the First Sin? I don't remember the name. Skylar. Yeah, I played the Skylar the First Sin edition, which I've gone back since beating that to see some of the differences in some of the areas and enemy placement and which enemies are in some spots, and I'm glad I played this version. Just like any other Dark Souls, Bloodborne game, there's always those areas where, like, why the fuck do we have to have a poison pond in every single fucking Dark Souls, Bloodborne, Sekiro? Like, why? But
you need it.
Like, there's always those areas. There's always those areas with just frustrating enemy placement and stuff like that. But I just in general, like, all these are really good. The Dark Souls Platinum, it was a good accomplishment. But the parts I played for the Platinum this year were just the grindy areas. I already beat the hard stuff in 2020, so it was just going through the grind and getting all that. And the Dark Souls 2, like I said, rocky start, but I'm glad I saw it through. But playing enough of Dark Souls 3 just to kind of get, I understand what that game is without beating it. I just definitely say Dark Souls 2 is the weakest on my list. That's not to say that I think it's a shitty game, like some people will say, but and I always say that Dark Souls 3 is like Bloodborne 2 in a weird way. I think these games are awesome. We'll get into my most anticipated game later on, but I think all signs have said what number one on my list is. And playing all these games this year has just kind of led me to that conclusion.
Sega reintroduced the world to Virtua Fighter 5 with Ultimate Showdown, a new version for PlayStation 4. I went back and played some of the 360 Virtua Fighter 5, but Mark, you jumped into this on PS4. Is Sega poised to take the world by storm with fighting games?
I hope so. I hope this has more awareness and sticks around, because for what it is, it has a short time with it, but I appreciated it. It felt good to jump into, especially for someone who hasn't really played a lot of these or haven't played in a while. It felt nice. And like usually, like, I haven't played much of Tekken either, but the familiarity with that one I've at least had. But with this one, it was cool to not even have any of that and still, like I said, just get into it. It doesn't feel overwhelming in any way to me so far, but yeah, I hope it sticks around. I actually want to keep a close eye on this one.
I spent some time with Super Bomberman R Online, but I spent more time with Super Bomberman R than this one. And I'm happy there's a new Bomberman out there for people to enjoy. This one had, because it's cross-platform, I felt like it suffered from a lot of loading times trying to get into a match. Once you're actually in a match and you can do this stuff online, these big Battle Royale style Bomberman stages, I think it's a lot of fun. But ultimately, I kind of, in the end, just want to play Bomberman for TurboGrafx or something. Next on our list, Hunt Down.
Dude, Hunt Down's badass. Definitely my pick for the year if I was to recommend anything. This is
Pin it up with Mark's face on
draw all your TMs on the wall now, kids.
Yeah. It's just it captures retro, but not in like a I don't know, like I feel like some games they kind of try to like capture it the wrong way, where like just because it's pixels they think it's retro when it's really not. But like this legit feels like a Genesis or Super Nintendo game with some quality of life controls to it, like through and through. Like it's like it's cyberpunk setting with like villains that look like they were taken out of like a pile of like reject characters from the Warriors. Like your mercenaries going in, you're taking out all these different factions within the city, and it's just like, you know, you traverse through each level just shooting and killing the crap out of everything, and then there's always a little boss fight at the end. Each boss, they did such a good job with like it's starting off simple, and the ramp of difficulty is just a nice ease to the top. There's no spike in it. But even traversing throughout the levels, like the platforming and moving around, like it all felt great the entire time. Like there's some frustrating moments for sure. You're going to get overwhelmed. Like you got to be careful, but at the same time, any mistake you make, it doesn't feel like it's the game's fault. You know, it's yourself, but it's also not super punishing because of the checkpoints that it has in it and what have you. But like the way you can take cover with like going into like crevices inside of a wall or like behind a crate to avoid fire and stuff. And when you fire, like you could still be holding that button to take cover, but firing, you will automatically peek out and whatever. It was just nice little details like that kept it going. And co-op made it super cool because if one of you's down, you can revive them. You have like a 15 second time frame, something like that to do it, but you just resuscitate them and boom, you come back. So that was helpful. The end got a little hairy. Like the boss was pretty difficult. Some of them have more than one phase, but you start to figure out the pattern after a couple tries and you know, you get it. But everything about this game, the visuals, the music, the voice acting, the combat, the blood, everything just felt so cool and so great. It's not even that long of a game, but that's completely fine. You know, that's not what it's about. But can't recommend it enough.
I had not heard of it at all, and then you like mentioned that it was on sale and really good, and I was like, yeah, dude, we've been telling you about that game for years, and then realized you were not talking about Hunt Showdown. And
Yeah.
After looking this up, like it looks like pure chaos and just a lot of fun. Like it looks like what I wanted Enter the Gungeon to be.
Yeah.
Oh man, like it's I don't know how to describe. I mean, obviously it's gonna hit some of that Hotline vibe for me, but it still stands out on its own for sure.
Yeah.
But I think there's like one or two tracks specifically that I was like, whoa, this sounds like this was made with like a Genesis like soundboard or something. Yeah, really good.
Sold. Friday, May 7th. I woke up at 5 o'clock in the morning, kept all the lights turned off, turned on my Xbox, and sunk myself into the countryside as Ethan Winters. Resident Evil Village came out this year. We all played it. I think we all loved it, but I do see a little stamp notating the Blockbuster staff pick of the year. Matt?
Yeah, I think overall this was the new game this year that caught my attention. Well, it's a AAA, well-advertised game, so maybe caught my attention is a bad analogy, but like, I think this is the one that I don't want to say down year, but in a weird year, whenever I think of Game of the Year, this was the one that kept entering my mind first. And I don't know if that's I just don't know if that's just because it was the AAA game or whatever, but like, then we made this list, we went through it, and I definitely think this is the one that has the biggest impact for me, kind of, when we recap the year. And It's yeah, you got up in the wee hours of the morning and played it. I was sitting there deciding all day at work, do I go? Do I not go? Do I do it? Do I not do it? Is it too scary? Blah blah blah. And then I pulled the trigger and I couldn't be happier. The one section I think everyone knows that I'm talking about, it's, terrifying, but it was also great that I, kind of a little personal accomplishment for me to get through that little spot. But that part was fun. I think this blended combat and horror well. I think the end maybe got a little too shooting happy, especially in a change of pace that happens towards the end of that game. But yeah, I thought this was a real solid game. I like the backtrack and I like the village area. I thought the enemies were cool. Most of the bosses were cool. The area, not just like the village area, but some of the other areas that you end up going into are pretty cool. And yeah, I think just the story is very fucking Resident Evil, and I say that in the best way. And there is a little bit of a lore dump at the end, but I liked a lot of the connections they made to prior games towards the end of that. And going past this game, I think there's a lot of interesting lingering questions that we still have to have answered. And I like this game. It got me excited for the next entry in the franchise. And yeah, we've talked about this game at length. There's even a spoiler cast about this game if you want to go hear us go into detail about it. But yeah, no, I think when it's all said and done, this is my little game of the year.
I don't think it was quite as much as Halo Infinite, but I do think that this one does kind of set the stage. It doesn't clean the slate as much as Infinite did, but I think it does they can kind of go anywhere after this one, and I'm excited about that. Intrigued by it, and I hope they can stick the landing with whatever 9 is.
Yeah, it was fun. I don't want to get into it, but it almost felt like 7 was their Halo Infinite, and they're now what's their trilogy or 4-game series? What's that look like? And there's a couple different directions you can go with it, especially with different characters if you wanted to. We don't know what the DLC is yet either, as of recording. So
true.
Well, I'm interested to see what that is.
Make Umbrella Chronicles 2.
And there was big vampire lady just to cap it all off.
Right, yeah. Who could forget?
Yeah, I love that this one embraced a more like supernatural-ish side of horror, especially going from 7. So it's cool to have that variety. I really appreciated that. And I beat this game 3 or 4 times in a week or something like that. I was hooked for a good while.
Yeah, you were in it.
That was what I forgot to mention. I like the replay value in this. Not that I went back and beat it again, but I started a playthrough because of the options you have to unlock stuff. Yeah. I thought that was really clever.
That was always my favorite with Resident Evil games, when you can come back with stronger weapons, whatever, and just see how fast you can go through it all, and just loving all that up. But yeah, I for games where I usually roll my eyes at backtracking, I love how this one does it. I actually liked going around and trying to find stuff and all the collectibles and all that. Yeah, really overall solid game.
Yeah. And Matt, you also spent a lot of time backtracking and replaying areas of Returnal.
Yeah, so I got to experience 2 of the first-party exclusives on PS5 this year by technicality. Returnal. This is a really cool game. This is probably, and I know I don't have a stamp on this, but this is probably my number 2. I don't know. It's this weird third-person arcade-esque experience, and it's almost like the next. If it definitely feels like a Housemarque game without it being this top-down, twin stick shooter. It's a roguelike, but there's very clever things you can do with the runs and how they progresses and how you can take shortcuts off of your progressions. Yeah, I didn't beat it, but that's because I played this game at launch, and I hated the fucking fact that my runs never saved if I quit out of the game. Now that's since been patched, and I would like to return. No pun intended. I would like to return to this game at some point to actually see it all the way through, because I thought they were doing some clever things with lore. Kind of getting into like the third and fourth biomes. But no, I think it's just a real clever third person or like arcade like game. Like you can just see where Housemarque has kind of evolved from the twin stick shooter to this third person, kind of tough as nails again action game, with all kinds of clever little mechanics in this world.
Streets of Rage 4 ended up on the list as it saw some new DLC. And Mark, I revisited Streets of Rage 4 a bit after it showed up on some people's 2020 lists. And I was like, did I not play that well enough? And I think I did end up liking it a lot more, but you really got into it once the final DLC released.
Yeah, I think this is probably currently the best beat 'em up to exist. The level of polish in this game, I just don't see in many others, and the way they added content to it, it was super cool. Like, not only they added more characters to it, but the way that the DLC was, you would go through like a random sorted list of like levels to go through, and you would get experience, but you could customize your character's layout of attacks. So you could you could unlock different signature moves and what have you, and apply those to your character. So it was fully tailored to how you wanted to play that specific character, and that was so awesome. And having Shiva finally playable, like Streets of Rage 4 version Shiva, that's my favorite character. So cool. Just going through the story mode again, like with a friend, just being these characters. The DLC, I thought I wasn't going to care too much for, but I got hooked into that. Soundtrack, the art, just I love it so much. Like if you were to have like a good like retro feeling weekend, I would have this right up there with Hunt Down. Play that in the weekend while eating some Doritos, drinking some Dew.
Nice. Yeah, I want to go back to this because I didn't play any of the DLC stuff, but I like good video games, and this seems like a good video game. Near Replicant version 1.22474487139 released in April this year. A remake, or kind of, I mean, the name implies it, right? Like it's not quite a remake, it's not quite whatever, but it's a newer version of Nier, the original Nier, what Automata was a sequel to. And I think at this point Nier games are Nier games, and if you know what you're getting into, then you know. I think that compared to Automata, this one is not as fluid in terms of mobility or combat or anything, but it still is quick enough, and I think that there's a lot here that I loved. I think that you can see where in Automata they took the idea of multiple endings and really ran with it, where this feels like they touched on the idea, but it wasn't ever fully... There's a little bit more replayed content here than there was in Automata, and I think Automata is better for it, but having played through this one now, Automata made so much more sense with all these little tiny things that I missed the first time around not having played this. And I think just like Automata, this one hit me in ways I didn't expect it to hit me, and ways that I did expect it to hit me. I really, really liked my time with this. That thing that you get at the end of the year where you see which albums you listen to or which songs were played the most. I think my number 2 song was what is it? Song of the Ancients from this soundtrack, because it's just such a good track. Yeah. I don't know if you guys wanted to add anything for Nier. I know you guys both played it, but
I love the music so much with this. The combat I really enjoyed too, and I went back and listened to like certain scenes from the original and compared to voice acting, because I know like they brought everyone back and they re-recorded the lines. And like that's a detail you didn't have to do, you know? Like you just kept the old audio in there, but like no, it's great. Like all of it is great. Very, very impressed by it. Yeah, I think I would just echo what you said with the extra ending stuff. First playthrough is very impactful, but then if you're trying to get all the endings, you might start to lose that impact. But I know it's for a good reason. There are, I think it tries to help the impact by adding more to it over time. But yeah, really, really enjoyed my time with it though.
I think, Mark, this might be yours as well. MLB The Show 21. You're the baseball guy, right?
Totally the baseball guy.
That's
I
the
did
one
play
with
this
the
racket, right?
Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah,
I did play MLB The Show because it hit Game Pass, and I wanted to give it a shot and see what it was like, and it was a little slow for what I was looking for in a baseball game. But Matt, how did this one stack up compared to the rest?
Surprisingly, there's only so much you can do in a year iteration from game to game into the sports world. And I think the general audience has come in to learn that over time. But, for his jump to next gen, the improved frame rate is really welcomed here. And it's just the dumbest thing ever. But like in terms of the technicalities of the game, like pitch recognition, like location of pitch, having those extra frames is very helpful. And I know you had that luxury with PS4 Pro in the last couple games, but no, just like the little quality of life things that new hardware can bring to this game, I think were really cool. It was only on the next gen, but the feature with creating your own ballparks, I never got into it, much like I never really got into it in Tony Hawk, but like the stuff you could create was incredible. Like from recreating old stadiums kind of pretty accurately to creating these weird, dumb jungles. Like you can just have dinosaurs in the outfield. Someone recreated Nuketown in the left field area, but like the map Nuketown recreated the whole map in the left field area of a ballpark. Like the amount of stuff you could do in that creative ballpark mode was great. And then like you had to make them legal in regards. But the cool thing was like those stadiums, like those dimensions and whatever, you could use that as your ballpark online or in franchise mode or in whatever. So there was a lot of cool things you could do with that, specifically on the next gen. The next gen consoles. But yeah, this year was spent a lot with the Road to the Show, my Doughboy Daddy, and the new feature with having the player do the Shohei Ohtani, which is pitch end bat, which was a nice addition considering Shohei Ohtani's taken over the actual Major League Baseball. And the Diamond Dynasty mode, man, like as much as I hate My Team or whatever the hell is called in Ultimate Team and EA Sports and My Team and NBA 2K, like I loved the collecting cards mechanic in MLB The Show. Yeah, like it's all the same stuff, but like it doesn't feel as scammy. Yeah, you can buy as many packs as you want, but there's so many ways to earn stubs and get these packs and do missions and do just a little bit of grinding, but you get like decent cards to use online against people. And you know, if you just do a little bit of grinding, you can get yourself a competitive team against people that are buying, you know, all their cards and stuff. So, like, I can't, once again, like, I spent a lot of time in Diamond Dynasty collecting these cards. Never really played much online. It was just fun just to get, you know, your Topps MLB card of this guy's MVP year or whatever. Yeah, I think it was overall a good year for MLB The Show when they're hopped to next gen. I am curious to see, you know, with a year on these new consoles, what they do next year, though. Or I guess this year.
Yeah. Pac-Man 99 is a video game I forgot released until we were putting together a list of video games that released in 2021. I wish that I spent more time with this one, but also I just didn't have a ton of fun. As much as something like Tetris 99 or even Super Mario Bros. 35. Which is a shame, but I'm looking at it though. I do want to revisit it, so we'll see. I don't know. Got to use that Switch Online stuff for something. Oddworld Soulstorm released this year, and I know it came out early for PlayStation and Epic, and then it just released for Xbox at the end of the year. And I picked it up because I was kind of I was playing Oddworld Munch's Odyssey, as it was made backwards compatible on the new Xboxes, and then this released just a few weeks later, and it feels like what I wanted in a new and tasty successor. But some of the stuff is really frustrating when you get something incorrect on one of the puzzles, or I don't know. It can be frustrating to kind of like reset all your progress up to start from scratch. But there's something about the Oddworld universe and those games that I still love going back to from time to time. Fantasian finally released this year from the creator of Final Fantasy. Comes a new Apple Arcade exclusive. Actually, has that made it to Switch yet? Is that out there? Or
I have no idea.
I feel like that was the one thing Apple Arcade had going for it for the time being.
Yeah, that Castlevania
game. Anyway, I played a bit of this, and I liked what they were doing with the ability to kind of change, like how it was kind of like the Bravely Default system, where like you were choosing kind of your interactivity with enemy encounters and stuff like that. But I didn't play much outside of that opening area. But Mark, you played a good chunk of Fantasian.
Yeah, I think I played like an hour or two. It might be more. I'm not too sure, but yeah, I love the visuals in this game. I love that it was like photographs of real like diorama sets they had set up, and then you move your character through it. I guess that would be pre-rendered, wouldn't it? Pre-rendered backgrounds. I did enjoy that. The story, I kind of forget what it's about, but the combat I did appreciate, and how they would introduce new mechanics to that combat, where I forget what the name of the mode was, but basically you could like find a quick way to take down like over 20 enemies or something like on a screen, and that would like boost everything pretty quickly, so you're not like forever grinding in like the same battle or two with like the same like 3 enemies, you know. That was cool. Yeah, this is one that I wanted to go further with, but I forget what stopped me. I can't remember if I just played something else or if I just lost interest entirely. But for something on Apple Arcade, I think this is pretty cool. I definitely think it's worth checking out.
I know a big thing for me was the just control stuff, which I know they've solved because you can just easily pair any controller to any device now. But I don't know. I think I tried it on the Apple TV, and that felt probably the best and most whatever. But like playing on my iPad or my phone, I just kept feeling like, I don't know, there's so many other things I'd rather do with those devices, or there were things actively popping up during use of those devices that it felt hard to stay engaged. And then when I tried it on the Apple TV, it was like, okay, cool. There's no distraction. There's no anything, but also, why don't I just go play a console? And that was the thing that kept me from coming back to it, which is a shame. And it's a thing in my head that I need to get over, not the game itself, but something weird about it. I think I've just spent so long not considering these devices as gaming devices, and then for them to suddenly be so dedicated, it's a weird adjustment. But yeah, I finally got a chance to check out Record of Lodoss War: Deedlit in Wonder Labyrinth now that it's on Game Pass. But Mark, you were singing its praises way back beginning of the year.
Yeah, I think this is a really neat little Metroidvania. I don't know what else to call it, but you could probably get through it in like a sitting or two. really enjoyed my experience with that. I love the like elemental mechanic that they threw in there, and like that's basically the main focus of how you like traverse throughout the game and learning different enemies' weaknesses and just trying to use that on the fly. I think that was really, really neat, and I love the sprite work, the animation in that. Definitely made me like want to do research on that franchise and that series, and I think there's a lot of cool stuff there to explore that I just haven't done yet. But it's still in the back of my mind, you know, like I haven't forgotten about it.
I almost bought the original game on Dreamcast. I saw it the other day and almost bought it, but it was like $70. And I'm having fun right now exploring the Dreamcast library at a maximum of like $25 a game. So,
right.
Because now being an owner of a Dreamcast, I've got Crazy Taxi, and I've been playing through a bunch of Crazy Taxi this year, at the end of last year, and now leading into this year. And yeah, but seeing games like Record of Lodoss War and there's other stuff I've just noticed that like we've talked about the modern versions, but like a lot of these games got their start on Dreamcast that I just totally missed out on that I'm excited to go back through. My blockbuster staff pick of the year is Monster Hunter Rise, which I've talked a lot about on this show this year in 2021. I thought I was going to cancel this pre-order, and then I forgot to do it, got charged, and then surprise, here's the game. But I was so happy that I made that mistake, because it ended up being honestly my favorite game of the year. Like I kept going back to it. I keep going back to it. I love all of the crossover content they've added. I've got Sonic, Knuckles, and Tails statues in my little house. I've got, what is it? Amaretsu? What's the wolf from Okami?
Yeah, I think you said it right.
I've got that skin for my my Palamute in the game. Like there's some cool Capcom stuff, but even outside of that, Capcom continued to update the game this year with new content, post-game, end-game stuff. And the thing that stood out to me the most about Monster Hunter Rise is how much it is just itself and not anything else. And I feel like Halo Infinite was one of our most anticipated games of the year, and a lot of the complaints that we throw at it have to do with where it tried to be like other things. It's at its best when it remembers that it's Halo and just tries to be Halo, and it's at its worst when it tries to do what other games are doing. And I'm so relieved in something like Monster Hunter Rise for not doing any of that. There's nothing that you see in other games of the modern occurrences happening in Monster Hunter Rise. And I love that it's just more Monster Hunter, polished, made better. I think the addition of the wire bugs make mobility so much fun. And I'm really, really looking forward to Sunbreak when it comes out this summer. It's out on PC now, so if Switch was a barrier for you and PC is your thing, I really say at least check out that demo, see if you like it. Even if you've tried a Monster Hunter before, because I had tried some on 3DS, I'd tried World, and I even played a bit of World and liked it, but fell off. Rise, it feels a lot of fun to play, and there's a lot of content in there. And I don't know. I get it now. I finally get it. Magic the Gathering Arena. While not new this year, it did reach iOS and iPadOS and Android this year, in addition to its initial releases on Mac and PC previously. And with the Innistrad sets, Midnight Hunt and Crimson Vow, we all kind of took a dip into the Magic pool. And Matt, you still out there swimming in it.
Yeah, ironically, I think this is the 1 week where I haven't played it for the weeklies, but everything before then. Yeah, this is my new Hearthstone, man. This is that card game I've been waiting for. I was hoping Artifact would be it, and it wasn't. So, like, I don't know. I just like having a card game around in my life. I go to it periodically, and yeah, I think even like I think the Innistrad sets were cool for their vampires and werewolves and all that stuff, but like, even the stuff I'm less excited for, like this Neon set, like, I don't know what the art's going to look like for it. I know it's not going to be like ghouls, werewolves, and vampires, but I think I'm looking forward to it. Not for the art or the mechanics or whatever, but like for the mechanics and for the shakeup of the meta. Because I think that's why I've fallen off of it this week, is because the meta's become so stale and just regular and standard ranked that I kind of I'm gonna see something else happen. So this is now a thing, a staple. I'm gonna stick around for a while here.
I remember the beginning of 2020. Go ahead.
No, sorry. The only thing I was going to say was I'm just glad I finally have an understanding of this game because I never did before. So I'm glad jumping into it. That's what I got out of it.
Yeah, and like even though I kind of did get it before, I really, really got it as I jumped in this year in particular. Like it just finally clicked for some reason. I need to go back to it. I haven't opened it in quite a while, but I should do that. Mark, you sent me Loop Hero at the beginning of 2021 as it was entering kind of a preview phase, I think, for different media outlets. And then the demo dropped, and I was hooked on the demo. I think I put 10 hours into that demo in like a week. And as soon as the game launched, beginning of March, I was just in to see how far I could go. And I definitely fell off, and I jumped back in later on in the year. But this was a front runner for me for when we were still thinking traditional game of the year stuff. I was like, man, I think Loop Hero might be our game of the year. It's a solid gameplay hook, and it's a lot of fun just to see like it's that risk reward thing of like, can I push it a little bit more to see how far I go?
Yeah, this felt like a PC game that was around for a while, and I forgot it existed. Like, just the way, like the aesthetic of this game, I'm so into. I love like this whole like dark fantasy, like sprite work that's going on, and especially the soundtrack going with it. Like, if anything to come back for, it's mostly that, and especially when like things get super hairy and the boss shows up, and then that music happens. Like, yes,
yeah.
I love trying to figure out what different cards do, in like placing your resources and trying to like just trial and error, basically trying to like see what goes with what are the setbacks for this as well, like what kind of chaos does this bring while doing it, while trying to benefit yourself. So I do love that little struggle there. I fell off of it too, but so it's kind of hard to remember everything in that game, even like formations and whatnot. So that's a little staggering, but still enjoyed my time.
Yeah, very good. So in the interest of time, I'm going to speed run the remainder of this list. But if there's something you want to elaborate on, please do. Peggle. It's a very good game. It's on Game Pass. You should go play it now. Stay tuned for more on Peggle. The Legend of Zelda.
Never heard
We
of
all
it.
three played this year in multiple ways. And yeah, we played it around the anniversary. For 35 years, we played 35 minutes each and reported in. And then Mark, you and I both have, I got it for Christmas. You had it prior to, but we have the Game & Watch. And that's been a really fun way to revisit Zelda for its 35th anniversary.
Yeah, it's really cool.
Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance.
Platinum makes good games. This was a weird outlier for the Metal Gear franchise, but it's great.
30XX entered early access this year.
So if you're a big fan of Mega Man X and you would like to either get more of that or more of it with a friend, I highly recommend 30XX. Even though it is early access, yes, but it's so cool. I love the way that this is handled. I mean, 20XX is also good for the mechanics that it has, but this just took everything up to a new level. Very nice polish to this game still.
Yeah. Destruction All-Stars.
Please don't confuse it for Twisted Metal. Put this engine with some guns and the Twisted Metal characters, and then you got a game.
If only. The Medium.
Mm.
I only played this game if it's on Game Pass, or you have a Game Pass subscription. I don't think it's worth buying.
Yeah, what Matt said.
It's not terrible, but there are some weird bad mechanics.
Yeah, like it has a good start. I love the atmosphere that it's building, but once you get into get to nitty gritty of it, it's like, all right, I'm kind of over this whole mechanic that they have. It's not the interest isn't there for as long as I'd hope it would be, and yeah, I don't know.
It's one of those things too, where like you know the answer to the puzzle, but it takes forever to solve the puzzle. So
you're definitely
when your brain works faster than your hands can, that sucks.
Yeah.
Cyber Shadow came out pretty early on, and I jumped in because it was Game Pass and published by Yacht Club, but it never really clicked for me. I didn't love it, but
I liked it a lot. I never finished it though, so I guess that says something. I thought it was fun with its Ninja Gaiden NES mechanics, but this was one of the first one of those that I played. I never really played like a Ninja Gaiden on NES or wherever. So I think that's part of the charm. It was for me. It was like kind of different.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, no, I can see where it wouldn't click either. It was a Game Pass thing, so I'm not mad I played it.
And finally, Hitman 3.
I think this was the gift of this game came out next gen. Really good Hitman game. It's just the third one of the same formula we've been seeing.
Yeah.
I think where this game will really shine is if you bought it in the bundle that had all the other three. At the time, bare bones. Like you had the campaign and stuff, but very bare bones with like the exclusive targets, those other like side mission things with specific parameters and stuff like that. That has been slowly filled in as time has gone along, but I have not gone back much because of just all the other stuff that's out there. And I think kind of, I think it would be fun to go back to it once everything's kind of out for it, just kind of go back through it all at one time. But I really wish that, it was cool to do it in season 1, or like the Hitman 1, but I wish at this point they just like waited to put this out as a bigger package together instead of this slow release kind of thing.
Yeah. That was why I never jumped into it, just because it was more the same. Not in a bad way, but I was just like, yeah, I know what this is. I was looking for something new. Well, that is our list, our year in review. Just to recap really quickly, our individual staff picks, Mark, his staff pick goes to Hunt Down. Matt's goes to Resident Evil Village, and mine to Monster Hunter Rise. Where's Hunt Down available, Mark, if people wanted to check that out?
I feel like it's everywhere, like on modern stuff.
Definitely Steam.
Is it? I mean, yeah, there's Steam, but I never looked into that. Trying to figure it out on the fly. I'm sorry.
No.
It's everywhere. It's everywhere. Steam, Switch, PS4, Xbox One, Epic, GOG.
Boom.
Even on the App Store and Google Play Store.
Boom. Resident Evil Village out on PC, PlayStation, and Xbox, and Monster Hunter Rise now out on Switch and PC. I might try that PC demo. I really don't want to start from scratch, but here's what'll happen. If you guys tell me, hey, guess what I downloaded? And it's Monster Hunter Rise, which will never happen, but if it did, I'll get it on PC and play with you. But yeah, I'm excited for DLC for 8. I want to check out Hunt Down at some point. But that's all yet to come. Much like our most anticipated games, which we're going to quickly each name our most anticipated game, and then we'll talk a little bit about what we're excited for 2022, and we'll get out of here. I will tell you that when I thought about what is my list look, or what is my most anticipated game, the first thing that popped into my head was Pokemon Legends Arceus. Where are you guys at? Mark, what do you think?
I'm excited. I want to see what's up.
Yeah. I'm curious about this one for sure.
Yeah, I would need to have other people play it first before I decide to jump into it.
Yeah.
I'll live vicariously through you.
Yes. But yeah, what's your top of the list?
Instinct, and hopefully it's this year. Shredder's Revenge. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Shredder's Revenge. That is... Boom. That needs to happen as soon as possible.
Yeah. And Matt, number one, most anticipated 2022 game.
I think it's quite obvious over the past year, but it's Elden Ring.
So,
Shocker, I know.
Elden Ring. Is that like Gaelic for Sonic Frontiers, or what's the...
Yeah, there's old rings you collect in Sonic Frontiers. That's why it's the code name.
Yeah. I'm still looking forward to that one mostly. Got some other things a little bit more. Quick runners up. Do you guys have anything on your most anticipated list that... Because that was honestly like my gut reaction was that, and then I thought about it again, and my gut reaction was Bayonetta 3. So like those two are my front runners for most anticipated. But what else do you guys have on your lists?
I feel like I shouldn't have Breath of the Wild 2 anywhere in this list because we just don't know anything about it. That could be, and good to go with my predictions. It's not this year, so I can't say that.
Right.
But I'm still hopeful for Digimon Survive. I'm fingers crossed.
Yeah.
But aside from that, honestly, the only other two, I kind of put them as one thing, but Gotham Knights and Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League. Like,
yeah,
I wasn't in before with Suicide Squad, but I'm in now.
Yeah, I'm ready for that one. They both look really, really good. Matt, any runners up?
Splatoon 3, that is this year, right?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, I'm hoping we could play with friends finally. Pokemon was on my list, Breath of the Wild as well. I'm curious about Sonic.
Yeah.
It's open world, it makes all the sense for that game to be open world. I'm curious. Not highly anticipated, but I'm curious.
Yeah, same.
Some games, Final Fantasy 16, obviously, but we don't even know that's coming this year. Some indies, Oxenfree 2, Lost Signals.
Oh yeah.
I don't think that has a release date yet, but Oxenfree, I loved the first Oxenfree game. Their second game was I'm hoping they return to form with the Spookies.
Yeah.
Sports Story.
Yeah.
Where's that game at?
Yeah.
Can I please get that game? Because Golf Story was so good. Forza Motorsport. If Horizon taught me anything, is that I really like the racing aspects in Forza. So I want the racing sim version of it. I want to see how that stacks up compared to Horizon.
Mm-hmm.
And then the unannounced but inevitable Call of Duty Modern Warfare sequel. I'm curious where that game goes. I'm curious what they do with Warzone, because Warzone is kind of down right now because they put in the Vanguard stuff. I want to see if Modern Warfare, that the sequel kind of reinvigorates the franchise like it did, like 2 years ago.
Yeah. Yeah, I hope so.
Yeah, that's where I'm at. I mean, I also had I think I mentioned it, but Pokemon Legends is on that list as well.
The only other ones I had were Sonic Frontiers, Monster Hunter Rise Sunbreak, and I'm really curious to see what happens with this Getsu Fumaden that was announced last year. Well, early access now on Steam, but coming to Switch once it's ready. Curious to see what that is, but I don't know. I'm very excited to see through some of the games we have on our list for season 10. I'm excited to explore more of the Mister. There's a lot of stuff in store for 2022, I think. So we'll be back next week with the kickoff of season 10. We'll be talking Billy Hatcher and the Giant Egg and introducing some of our new segments. Please stay tuned for that. Also, tell your friends about it. If you've been listening to the Free Cheese for a long time, if you're hearing this, it means you like hanging out. Go tell somebody else that you like hanging out. Maybe they'll like hanging out, and then more people will like hanging out, and we can all hang out together. And that's a lot of fun. Hopefully, our departure was still worthwhile for looking back at 2021, although we didn't give a game of the year. I think we talked about some games that we all liked and appreciated quite a bit in ways big and small. That is it. Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Matt. Thank you, listener, for listening. We'll see you next week.